Welcome to WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. From back roads to town centers, we bring you the voices, stories, and news that shape our community. Join us on this journey through the past, present, and future of Pike County, Indiana. And now, here's your host, Randy Harris.
Thanks for joining us for WFPC Podcasting, where we explore the people, information, and news right here in Pike County. I've been blessed with 3 careers. It started out with broadcasting, transitioned into politics, which transitioned into properties and real estate. They've all kind of worked in harmony together, with one leading to the other. Broadcasting has changed over the years, but at the heart of it was communicating with the people. And what brought me to Pike County in 1988 was WFPC Radio. The great thing about that was connecting with the people, specifically the people of Pike County and in this area of rural Indiana. As the medium has changed, a new technology has been introduced, which is very similar to what we did back in the day, and that is podcasting. Another blessing has been getting to meet Dylan Query and pitching him the idea, which is very similar to what was WFPC Radio, and that is connecting and focusing with the people right here, the newsmakers, the ones with information about the community and the history and future through its people. So welcome to WFPC Podcasting. A special thanks to my wife, Denise, for accepting all of these projects. My daughters, Jayla and Jenna, for being a sounding board as well. Friends, our guests, and Angela in the office, helping to keep things going in the right direction. Thanks to our sponsors, specifically Kyle Hathaway. Maybe as we grow, your business can be a part of sharing in this venture as well. Also, a big thanks to you for watching and collaborating. Dylan tells me that we are already in the top 25% of all podcasts as far as an audience and consistency. And of course, thanks to God for letting it all happen. We started out on May 28th, and although it was a bit of a learning curve in that first month, we had some great guests sharing and exploring the story, which included Clint Swisher, a photographer from Texas who has taken some old coal mine ground that was turned into a Boy Scout camp and is expanding it into a theme park in Cato, Indiana. We also visited with Steve and Beverly Knight, who turned some acreage in western Pike County into a premier garden spot for the Midwest with the Azalea Path. Jill Heineman of the Chamber of Commerce continues to engage the community in working together to build an even better Pike County. Ashley Poland Willis tirelessly works on growth and economic development to be competitive with our neighbors. And we started out with Randall Hedden, a renowned artist who built the mural of one of our favorite sons, Gil Hodges. In this clip, Randall tells the story that as he was working on this mural in his art studio in Arizona, a friend brought in another friend. Let's watch.
He says, well, I played when Gil Hodges played. I said, really? And so I went, well, bring him on by if you like. And so I walk in, of course, me being a baseball fan, I've watched every baseball game on TV I could possibly watch. In comes, he was a little scruffy looking, and he wasn't long for this earth, but he'd been around. And I walked in, and I went, Mr. Garagiola, how are you today? And he goes, I'm fine, and he looks, he says, I was a catcher for the Cardinals. I said, yes, I know that. Because I'd always studied all this stuff. Like I said, I studied my subjects before I get started. He goes, I'm looking at that painting that you've got of the catcher, because it was pretty well done. He says, that's a Cardinal uniform. And said, there's a 95% chance that's probably me right there. And I showed him the picture that I worked off of. He says, that's me.
Wow.
So we confirmed. And the thing is I don't have Joe Garagiola
Right.
nor this other guy. Neither one of them are around anymore to confirm that story. But it was really cool. And it's really a story that I don't think up until recently that I've told, just like my meeting Gil.
I'm glad you asked. So we are busy, but I think economic development, we're doing a lot of things, but we're being much more focused on the target industries that we want to focus on. So Pike County, we're an energy community, and we want to help all of our businesses that we have, but we also want to diversify our local economy also. So we have been, we've had a study that was completed through a grant process, but focusing on our 4 target industries beyond what we currently have. And so we see that being warehousing and logistics with where we are with I-69. That's a great industry sector for us to focus on, as well as food manufacturing. That's not going away. That's a sure thing. Data centers is another one. We have a great amount of electricity and water. Those are the main resources you need for that. And then also where we are in regards to the electric grid, with electric supply chain, anything that really touches the electric industry, that's another sweet spot for Pike County.
Can you explain the mission and charge better than I did in your intro? What is the purpose of the Chamber of Commerce?
We are here to make connections matter. Making the right connections is going to help people grow. It's going to help our businesses grow, and just uniting our county. We are one of the people that we actually have community, not just members in our mission and statement. We want to also make our community better. So we don't stop at just the businesses and organizations. We want all of us to grow.
What do we need to know about AI?
AI. So
Scares me to death.
Don't be afraid of it. There's a lot of things that it can streamline for you. It can help your productivity, and it also can help with, if you've got a small business, social media in digital marketing is your key to get started. And there's so many AI programs that you can use based on, what you need.
But it takes out the human.
It doesn't always just take out it helps give you better ideas. I never send out something that's completely AI. It's just they give me ideas that I didn't think of, help me reword things a little better. I'm not the best with some of my wording, but they can help me just fine tune my message to others. So it doesn't have to be, I don't want it to be a robot. I want it to be me. I get online and I do lives. That's AI. But when I'm putting out social media, I use some AI to help me come up with better ideas, creative ideas. But then it just gives you more resources.
What a bargain.
I don't know. We got married in 93, and we just started planting. It just grew. People started coming by wanting to see our plants, because Smith's Greenhouses was just down the road another half mile. So they were coming out to Smith's. Well, they'd pull in our place thinking this was the place, but it just developed. So we incorporated in 2007. Yeah.
So that's working on 18 years. I guess you've kind of got a gate fee, but not much of one.
We charge $5 a person.
What a bargain.
Where can you go for $5 for a whole afternoon?
Or as long as you want.
How long do people stay?
A lot of times I'll go all day. They'll go down to the store, Union store, and get lunch or something, or bring their lunch, which they can do, and picnic. There's picnic tables everywhere. And they can sit on the decks up there, feed the koi.
Well, we've had people spend the day.
Mm-hmm.
So. And we want to make it affordable for a family to go out and enjoy themselves.
We try to do something really different. Steve does every year.
What live nature does that bring in as far as animals? Birds?
Well, deer love our plants.
A lot.
We feed birds year round, so the bird habitat is quite extensive. But squirrels, nobody squirrel hunts anymore, so you can sit and watch squirrels all day long, just all over the place. Of course, there's coon, and they're just all your regular woodland creatures. We've got plenty of them.
It is a nature lover's paradise.
Yeah.
It would be.
What do you have that is available for people to come do
That's
right
a great.
now?
That's a great question.
And you're open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yes, that's the adventure park side. But if somebody wants to camp, we had 9 spots. If they wanted to camp during the week, they can come back and we can just stay, and they can stay in the parking lot. There's hiking, there's fishing, there's, we're going to probably open, if somebody was there for the weekend, we'd probably get the BB guns out and have a BB gun range. We have, the Gaga pit. Most likely, I always joke, when, they're just like, oh, can we stay in the camper? Is there a spot? And I'm like, it's not a very big spot in the camper. It's temporary, just to have people that are passing through. But I told them, I was like, you're probably not going to want to stay in your camper. That's not why you're coming here, to stay in your camper. We want you to enjoy the park and enjoy the adventure park. So we will have the obstacle course, floating obstacle course open. We have the zip lining. We have laser tag. I always keep saying it. It's the high ropes course.
So you can do that now.
The high ropes course is ready to go. The laser tag, the water park is good. And then you can just come out there and do all that and hang out. We will have campfires, and if we have people out there, we will do little activities and stuff. I mean, we might show a movie one night and stuff like that and stuff. We're all about, and having our, customer service and making the customer just feel at home and doing everything. So,
in June, we spoke with Dr. Dunnigan, who turned 95 this year. He still dabbles at the office, but he continues to grow and thrive after 65 years in dentistry right here in Pike County. Brooke Goebel spoke with us about the Extension Office and the Pike County Fair. Sandy Macbeth, a historian, told us stuff we didn't know about our history. And we also spoke with Tom Morrison, a patriot, a retired teacher who also talked with us on Veterans Day about his service during Vietnam.
Think back on this, and I think here's what I've heard a lot of guys say. I wouldn't go back to Vietnam for $1 million, but I wouldn't take $1 million for the experience that I had. And that's true. Your life just instantly changed. And I was like, I remember stepping off the plane and the first thing that hit you was the heat, like the whole world had changed. You became like a brotherhood. You all depended on each other. You're watching my back, I'm watching your back. That's an automatic greeting for anybody that you run into from Vietnam. Welcome home, brother. Because you didn't get welcomed home. So we welcomed each other home, When you came home, you were just pretty well ignored. I've talked to other guys and said, well, how were you treated? Well, just nobody thanked us.
Thank you for you and the patriots that have secured this nation to where we are.
Miss Kelly, and she said, I want you social studies people to come up and elective. These kids will sign up, or they won't sign up for your electives. I said, well, I can't make them. They only take the required courses. And she said, well, what could we have? I said, well, you could have like what my daughter took. I was just teasing her.
Right.
And I told her about that. And she said, well, how could we pull that off? And I said, well, I would tell you that I have a gigantic music collection from the 50s all the way up. And I got a son and a daughter that's got tons of music, and I could pull it off.
And who better than the guy listening to a transistor radio in Vietnam to pick up his music?
Yeah. I know a ton of stuff about rock and roll. It became a hobby. We didn't have a textbook, so I had to come up with my own program. So I researched, and I had to provide the music. And I just was shocked at the things, and they loved it, to sing like the black blues people, and they didn't know anything about who invented the guitar, or who invented. I said, if it hadn't been for electricity, there wouldn't be any rock and roll, because it's meant to be played loud, so you couldn't play it loud until you got speakers and an electric guitar. And I said, suddenly there it was. So
as a disc jockey, I've been blessed.
It progressed on, and I said, progressive music is going back and taking Bach and, and some of those people from back in the 1800s and taking their sound they had and put it into rock and roll. And that's where you've been to get, all the different progressive groups you like. Kansas, and, they had a violin and, keyboard players. And, I know some people probably don't like rock and roll, but I've told Marla this before. of all of the studying I've done on history, and of course, a lot of that includes arts, which is always going to be in the history book from all the way back. And I said, actually, people don't realize what rock and roll opened up to, that anybody that wanted to learn how to play a guitar, learn how to play a keyboard, could form a band right in their own garage at home, and they might become famous. And they created music nobody had ever imagined before. And I said it just became a phenomenon.
A couple of weeks ago when we were talking on the phone, I asked, you and I obviously share a love of history. What got you started? What got you started in loving history?
Well, when I was a little girl, my great-grandmother was in her late 80s. My great-grandmother, not my grandmother. My grandmother worked. She was raising me.
Your grandmother?
My grandmother was raising me.
Hilda
Ballo, yeah. And anyway, my job during the summertime when I wasn't in school was to keep track of my great-grandma, my Grandma Kunkel. That's what we called her, is Grandma Kunkel. I knew all of these names that come up when I do genealogy research. It's like, Grandma Kunkel knew those people because I remember her talking about, the stone ciphers and the burgers and all these different, old names and everything. And so, and when they would talk about the old times, it was things that came back to me as I got older. I remember sitting on her sister's front porch, which was Clara Canavan. Clara and John Canavan, they owned the house that was on the corner right past the tennis courts on the same block that the old Petersburg School was in. And they were sitting on the porch one day, and they kept talking about how that high school wasn't going to last. That school wasn't going to last that as long as people thought it was, because they built it over the old city dump. And sure enough, when I was in high school, we were in the classroom in high school when that whole big hunk fell in the school and down through the stairway and everything. And that's when they were condemning the building.
If somebody's out there watching this, what do they do?
Come visit the History Center. Just come in. That's what I tell people. They get an old box of pictures and they're like, I don't know anybody in these pictures. I'm just going to take them out and burn them, or I'm throwing them away. Oh, please don't do that. If you don't want them, bring them to the History Center. We don't care if we don't know who they are.
Someday with AI and DNA and we might be able to identify them.
But I know that, and it's not always the people that's in the picture, but it's the background. It's the background of the picture. My great-grandmother's brother he lived in a house that set where the post office sits now. And there's a picture that was taken in their front yard that I found in my great-grandmother's picture album. And it shows the Lincoln Theater after it was first built in the background from taking the picture across the street. So you never know what you're going to find in the pictures.
These are
the
farmers.
Yep, these are adults, older adults. I can teach to all people.
Many farms.
Yep.
Whoever is interested, you're available.
Yes. So we do a lot. We do a lot within the school. We do a lot of after school programming. We do camps. Like in the summer, we've had, I think, already 3 camps this summer. That's not just here in the county, but also we work with other counties in our area as well as on campus. So we do a lot. And what we do myself and Chloe Brom is the other 4-H and A&R educator in our office. We do a lot of needs assessments, getting involved in the community, talking to community members, youth, adults, parents, whoever, and see what we can bring to the community that is a need and how can we fill that.
When I got to Korea, I went to Busan first, and then I went to Daegu, and I was supposed to replace to help a dentist in Daegu, but then somebody had already replaced him, so I went on up to Seoul, Korea, and so I was with the 936th Field Artillery Battalion. It was about 2 miles behind the line, and So I've worked for 2 dentists up there. That's what we were supposed to do. Is we had a tent, and we had this toolbox that had your folding chair and had the we didn't have any electricity up there, so my job was to pedal the drill.
You have shown me a drill. Might not have been the one you used, but it might have been. But it was like the one you used.
It was like the one, yeah.
And you would pedal that thing.
Stand up all day, yeah.
So the dentist had power, to operate that drill.
Yeah, that's
Oh, my.
Yeah. I don't think I could stand on my 1 foot anymore.
I bet you could.
Not all day like that. No, I couldn't stand all day on 1 foot anymore.
During August, we got to visit with Tony Rothrock, an incredible musician who has been making music right here since early childhood. Mayor R.C. Klipsch explained to us how the Buffalo Trace Festival, that continues to grow, got started. Bob Price, in his 90s, continues to have an incredible attitude. Sheriff Jason McKinney gave us an update on his departments, and author Mitch Stinson spoke with us about a book highlighting Winslow, Indiana basketball. There's a book out that's called Eskimo Fever. It's written by Mitchell Stinson. Mitch, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So, Mitch, you've written this book, Eskimo Fever. Oh my, what a study.
A long project, yeah.
And why Eskimo Fever? Why Winslow basketball?
My parents both went to Winslow High School. My father grew up in Winslow in the area and surrounding area. My mother grew up in Murin on a farm, and they both went to Winslow High School, and I heard all the stories. And I had written 2 earlier books that were actually published. These are baseball biographies, as you know. And my mother said, well, you should do a book on Winslow High School basketball next. And I said, no. Who's going to buy that besides Winslow people? But then I thought about it more and more, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it soon because, they're not getting any younger, the people who went there and played there. So I just kind of on a whim said, well, let's do it.
Well, it's an incredible legacy and their success. And I think you mentioned in the book they had 1,300 games from the late teens to 1974. How many wins? 775 or something like that? I don't
recall, but it's a good percentage.
Oh my, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And they were always good. They were good back in the 20s. They had a great run in the 40s, in the 50s. They were good through the 60s. They were good until they consolidated with Pike Central.
For the most part, there were some downtimes, especially during the Depression. They had some bad teams then. Or I won't say they're bad, but they weren't winning teams. But the 20s, powerhouse. Early 40s, powerhouse. Late 40s, powerhouse.
What do you need from us? What do you need from the community?
I think just the biggest thing is just information, and then if there's issues out there, let us know. We'll try to help the community out as much as we can, and if sometimes we're not pleased, we can't please everybody, but I am here to tell you we will try to please as many people as we can. Sometimes it don't always fall your way, but we're here to help you guys, and just be understandable for what we do. We're blessed to live where we live at. A lot of times I can go into one of the local restaurants and eat lunch one time, and people's hey, I'll buy your lunch or I'll do this. We appreciate that so much, and that people don't have to do that. That's not what we're go to lunch for. But there's a lot of places in our country that despise.
Yeah.
And we're blessed to live where we live at, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. People still respect what we do and believe in what we do, and it's not like that everywhere. So.
Yeah, you feel sorry for some of those officers in the bigger community? You think?
Oh, absolutely. I just want the community to understand that, like I said, we're here to protect and serve and do whatever we can to help the community out. And by doing that, give us information, help us with information that you might see or know. And, when we work together with the community, then we have a safer place to live in.
Everybody's telling you how sad they are or how sick they are or whatever. And I said, I'm magnificent, And you see the look on their face. They're saying, nobody's magnificent.
You have always had a strong faith. You've always had a strong faith in Jesus. That's helped that positive attitude, hasn't it?
That's one of the things he said. Treat everybody like they're your family. And part of it, I think. I retired and was sitting around, and my wife kept telling me, find something to do, right. Get out there and do something. And so it made me get up and do it.
I never, ever imagined this being a one-year event that it's turned out to be. And I remember Kelly arguing with me. Sure, obviously the history of the Buffalo Trace in our community, and I do a little research on that, and you will find in pioneer days, this was a connecting route between the Ohio River down in the Louisville area where the pioneers would cross over into Indiana and travel up to Vincennes, Indiana, and this was the Buffalo Trace. And of course, he knew that history, and I did too, and I thought, what a great idea. I said, but you've got to help me on this. And believe it or not, that was to be a one-year event created in 2017 to celebrate our bicentennial, and he was involved. And of course, Jody's been a big player. Jim Pell was a very big player in that as well, in our very first one. And of course, Kelly Cook was involved with
still involved.
4-H and had a history in it, and she wanted to help me with it. And that's how this thing has started. And here we are. I never, ever imagined this being a one-year event that it's turned out to be. And I remember Kelly arguing with me how we have to file every year and do certain things a certain way, of course. But that's how this thing got started. And never in my wildest dreams would it still be going on. And 8 or 9 years later, whatever it is, and with the success, it's one thing for people to say they really enjoyed something. And then you think, well, that was a good event. But when they actually open up their checkbook and make a donation or a sponsorship, then you realize you've really got something worthwhile. And as I was saying earlier, Karen reminds me of this every year. I can't believe you're doing this again, because it's stressful for a few of us to make sure we get this done properly. But I will also say at the end of the event, nobody has more fun with it than I do. We do this once a year. Everybody comes out. It's like, to me, it's a big celebration of our community, something I'm very proud of, and it's certainly been a lot of fun.
Pike County has a rich history of coal mining, agriculture, great people, and a lot of outstanding musicians. A fellow who's been on the forefront of Pike County's music scene for 7 decades is Tony Rothrock.
Got interested in old fiddle tunes early on, even before I went to the Navy. I learned a few chords, and there was a man named Hardy Wade locally that my dad used to take me over there and drop me off, and he would teach me chords and how to back up the fiddle tunes that he knew how to play. I didn't really start a band until the 70s, and that was the Patoka Valley Boys. All local musicians.
And then the Patoka Valley Boys kind of grew into you traveling all over, and then you started something here in about 1983, the Pickin' and Fiddlin' Contest.
Well, I had been going to other contests in Tennessee and Kentucky and a few in northern Indiana. And I got to thinking, Indiana don't have a contest like all those other states. And I tried to get some people to start one, and the first question was, how much money can I make with it? And I know, well, it probably cost you money. Well, they didn't want anything to do with that. So I started it myself.
For September, we met with 2 new principals in our school corporation, Melissa Pancake at Petersburg Elementary and David Kokenauer at Pike Central. State Senator Darrell Schmidt gave us an update on the legislature. Chris Young explained Pike County's emergency management service from the early days and how it grew into what it is now. Tell us, what do you have in kindergarten right now, and how are you learning all your associates?
Learning all the names has been interesting because they're, we have all the students and all the staff, and we have a lot of stuff. But I make it, another favorite part of my day is I go into every classroom every day, and the kids, just having them see me, get to know me, is a pretty special thing. So I get to see firsthand them learning. We started a new reading curriculum this year, and so that's been fun to see. The teachers are learning as well, getting, you have this amount of time to get a lot accomplished, and so they're learning.
So you take all those papers on your desk, you put them in a pile, put them over until after school, and you go through and visit each classroom.
In the mornings, I make it a point to visit those classrooms.
That's fabulous.
I like to see what the students are doing and how they're learning. And that's what I tell them. It's like, I'm just watching you learn. I don't stay very long in each classroom, but I think it's important that they see me and know that I'm there. And
know you're accessible.
Correct.
I'm just amazed that you are the only full-time farmer in the Indiana farm country in the Indiana State Senate. That's amazing.
Yes. Well, we're a part-time legislature, but it's really a full-time job. Is what it's but that's okay. I want to do it, and I guess I don't know the reason why, but there's a lot of nonsense that goes with this job too. But I'm happy to do it.
Well, if there aren't farmers in the state senate, I assume a lot of lawyers.
Yeah, it's a variety. There's a lot of there's a lot of lawyers. There are people involved in ag, but not necessarily farmers anymore. Senator Jean Lysing over in eastern Indiana, she used to, her and her husband farm, years ago. She's the chair of the ag, but she's retired now. And then Senator Byrne in District 47 is a electronics security systems business owner, and then he has cattle. He has quite a few cattle that he raises. But yeah, for whatever reason, it's interesting that the state legislatures designed, maybe around it's a part-time session in agriculture, because we were in session from the 1st of January through a budget session year like this year. The odd years are we have a biennial budget. We're done by April, middle of April. Now going into 2026, we'll be done by the middle of March. So it's designed as a part-time legislature. Maybe was that a way initially?
Well, it gives you planting season.
Yeah, that's right. But
SO officer, is he kind of hard to deal with?
Are you teeing one up for me, Randy? Because, Buck's great.
He is great.
He's back here right now. God love him, because Hunter's away today, and so Buck knew I was coming in here, and Buck's running the show. So I told him and Dawn that I'd be back soon. But no, Buck's great, funny guy, does his job.
He cares about kids.
Loves the kids. I like that people notice that I'm out and about, but it's not just Dave Kokenauer. I mean, Hunter's out and about, Buck's out and about. We got people
are always greeting me when I drop Jenna off of the morning.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, it's part of it, right? I mean, it's why like you said, it's why we got into this business, or it should be why we got into this business.
I think it's the biggest thing is the staffing, and trying to keep people. This is a very trying job.
What is the average? If you've been doing this since essentially high school, most people aren't in there 32 years. What's the average tenure for for an EMT?
Most of them anywhere from 5 to 10 years.
And then they move on to something that's less physical, less stressful.
And more money. A lot of them will go into nursing, or they'll go back to school for physician's assistant. And some of them decide, I'm getting out of the medical field altogether and just do something completely different. So, I think our biggest thing going forward is going to be staffing. Because like I said, it's a nationwide issue. And the state, we've talked about it at the state level in some of the meetings that I've been in, and nobody's really sure how to fix it. And I'm not really sure what the answer is. But again, we can't, especially in a community like ours, we can't go without emergency services.
As we got into the fall, Irma Capehart Birch shared memories of Jefferson Township going all the way back to the Depression. Denny Whitecamp told us about the many programs for the Pike County Veterans Services and how they can assist with our veterans. We had a great visit with Alan Grubb, who is 95 and thriving. Our coroner, Nick Henson, updated us on that department of county government. And Dr. Fenol, who has served this community for well over 40 years, talked about his faith and life of service with us. You were on a farm in Pike County, and you probably didn't see you never had money.
We didn't have money. We had plenty of food.
But you had food, you had family.
We had
you
love.
Had love, you had church.
Yes.
You had community.
We sure did. But we always had plenty to eat. We had our own, we butchered, we had our own meat, and Mom put out a big garden. We had our milk and our eggs, and Mom canned a lot of stuff, so we didn't have a lot of money, not any extra money, but we always had plenty to eat, and we always went to church, and we always had a lot of prayer in our home. We had a good home life like that. So, and then when we went to bed, we just had screen doors hooked. We didn't have to have the doors locked. We felt safe, and we were safe back then. Because, you know what? I did have a good childhood because we had prayer, and we went to church every Sunday, and in between on prayer meeting and all, we did have a good family. But in 1960s, when we bought our house there on Harmon Court, and but we've just always been wanted the Lord in our life. But we was just always known as a Christian family, and like I said, we was never hungry. My mother always kept the house really clean.
This is like the veteran. When you enlist, you signed up for 4 years. You're
40 years later, you're dealing with it.
Yeah, and you are, that 4 years that you're in there, or however long you're in there, you belong to the Army. So, I always said that, service requires sacrifice. Everybody has a different level of sacrifice, but every veteran has had to sacrifice something, some more than others. So, a lot of times they think they don't deserve it. But in our job, we say, you served, you deserve. So, you fulfilled your obligation with the Army or the Air Force, Marines, Navy. You did your stint, and part of their promise is to take care of you, and that's what the VA is for.
I always tell people when they say, why are you like this at 95? Don't sit down, because if you do, you're not going to get up. And I love people, Randy. I love people. I love to visit with people. I love to intermingle with them. I love to talk with them. I love my church family. Randy, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I love it, Randy. I love life. I love life, and like I told you a while ago, I love people.
Right.
I'm just a people person, and I ask God every morning in my prayer, please, Lord, give me somebody to talk to about Jesus today. And every time I pray for somebody's place, I pray, Lord, just please give us enough food to feed our people today.
And he always provides, doesn't he?
I've been hooked on Jesus ever since.
So you get back to Petersburg, and we had this discussion because to me, you're synonymous with the Christian church on Main Street.
Yes. And I thought the preacher preached a sermon, and it touched me, and I thought, I'm not doing these things. And I didn't want to be a bad person. But anyway, it touched my heart. And I said, Mom, I want to be baptized. She said, okay, go up when they sing this song. And I did. And then we didn't even have a baptistry, which we have now. And they took me to Washington that night and baptized me.
And it was, if somebody is not familiar, Somebody's Place helps those same kids that you were kind of drawn to at school to, if there is a need, you try to fill it.
And if they'd go on a field trip, when Faye was principal, she'd always let me go because I had played with them and worked with them, and I just loved them. And God sent her down there.
He takes care of us, doesn't he?
But I just love people. I love my Lord. I know I owe my everything to him, every breath I take. And if it wasn't for him, I couldn't do anything, especially at 95 years old.
When Pike County started in 1816, did we have a coroner's office?
Yes. There
Really?
would have been something of that nature back then. As far as 1816, I'm not 100% sure as far as who the coroner would have been or there being a coroner's office, but I know for sure the coroner's office started back in medieval England. And I think it was about 1194, somewhere around there. The coroner's office, the coroner was actually created to make sure people didn't cheat death tax back then for the king.
Really?
Yeah. And if somebody lost a child, they would be compensated. And the coroner was created to make sure, verify death, and make sure it was actually taking place when people would try to get their payment for losing a family member or a child. And to make it all came down to finances at the time, but it was to make sure that people weren't kind of like insurance fraud or something of that nature. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it's obviously evolved a lot in different ways, and it also, funny enough, it was also created. Part of the creation was to actually have someone oversee the sheriff, which,
today you are the only person that can arrest the sheriff. What diet do you recommend to us that we should stay focused on?
That's funny you ask. I always hear the seafood diet. Have you ever heard of that?
I have.
Everything you see, you eat?
Yes.
It's a joke, but I think you always kind of figure out, in my mind, like, what did God design for us to take? And nature's produce is the very, very best, but the big food firms became smart and added a lot of things, modified a lot of things, genetically engineered a lot of things. And I begin to think to myself, I don't think that's what God really wants, So it's very, very hard to fight big corporations. And I always say, let's go back to common sense, moderation, researching on why some people live longer, what nations have, what they call the blue zones, where people live to their 80s, 90s, and 100s. Before I eat anything that's packaged, I always flip the container and read, what do these things contain? And sometimes I'm shocked because of the many ingredients pushed into it. And I don't think our body really is designed to take them. So I think nature that gives us the produce, the vegetables, the fish, the meat, hopefully will remain unadulterated and not bioengineered and infused with additives
to taste better. And they're concerned about their bottom line, making more money. They're not concerned about our health.
And so I think moderation is important. And I do believe that
the food that's less messed with,
the better. Yeah.
In November, the guy behind the camera, Dylan Query, came and sat in front of the microphone and talked about leaving the big city to start his company right here where his childhood home is in rural Pike County, Indiana. Pike County Highway Garage Superintendent Josh Bird explained with how limited local resources his department continues to grow over 500 miles of roadway that they maintain. Tom Rudolph, along with Tony Hinkle, a couple of area farmers, explained the goal and purpose of regenerative farming, and Dave Holmes shared with us his experiences since moving to Pike County in the early 1960s. Never thought I'd leave the West Side.
Yeah. It's funny, we have those ideas of where we're going to end up in our head, and life and God seems to turn those plans upside down.
God's providence is different than what we understand, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So wouldn't you rather raise Harmony and now Cassian?
Yeah. We just welcomed our second child in the world.
In Pike County.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter where you live, there's going to be problems, no matter what. But I think what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of problems do you want to deal with, and what kind of problems do you not want to deal with? My issue with the city was it was way too unpredictable. Around here, I think a little bit of excitement is good here and there, but I like how quiet things are. I like how steady things are. I like the consistency of the community, and I think that's a wonderful place to raise kids.
How many miles of roads do we have in Pike County?
551.
And how many of those are blacktop?
I think we're probably around 300 blacktop, I'm guessing, and probably setting the hair over 200 on rock.
Is your goal to someday turn that 300 into 500?
We hope.
Or do you just have to maintain what you've got?
If you take it back a few years to where, even when Roger Ham was superintendent, he didn't have the funding to what we do now. And if we got $400,000 in paving,
right,
we was really doing good. Now we lay $2 million a year in paving.
And a lot of that is because of the grants that Melanie is able to go out and seek out, and then we pay our match.
Yes. And that is one thing with the grants. It's a great asset to the county. It has helped us tremendously as far as fixing our roads, because you take it back 10 years, our roads wasn't in really good shape. And we started with the worst ones and have made our way to the top to where people ain't hitting potholes every day.
Abraham Lincoln told us government should only do for the people what the people can't do for themselves. To me, that's water towers, infrastructure, police, and roads. What is the goal here? What is regenerative farming?
Well, regenerative farming is, if you just look at the name, it's regenerating the soil. Many of our farming practices, since the beginning of time of agriculture, some of the practices that we use basically degrade the soil slowly over time. The most obvious thing is, erosion. It's not just losing some soil that's going downstream. It's losing nutrients, losing life in the actual soil, no matter where it is in the field. And so regenerative farming basically is working with nature to farm instead of against nature. And so the food that is produced in healthy soil is much more nutritious. So that a lot of the people in the regenerative field now are saying that, our food has lost around 80% of the nutrition that was in it, 40 years ago. Wow. Because our soils are degraded that much. So so you look at, the things that are showing how much disease we have now with humans, whether it's cancer or diabetes or so on and so forth. People are consuming a lot of calories. Maybe they're trying to get that nutrition, but they're consuming too many calories to get the nutrition they need. And so then that leads to being overweight and that sort of thing. So where it's going is that it's not just for the land. It's not about the farmers. It's not about the crops. It's about human health and not going to the doctor and being on, 10 medications, by the time you're 60. It's about quality of life. It's about being able to enjoy, being healthy, people being healthy enough to enjoy their life and to, to carry on and enjoy their grandkids instead of being, in the hospital all the time.
This community just sucks you in.
It's funny how that part of banking's changed, and the part of back when I started the bank, the customers would come in with their kids, and so you got to know their kids, and so then you knew their names and who they were, and as they got a little older, they'd say, "I got my Chrysler card on with you," and they would stick with you like that, and so you took care of them and their families and so forth. Now it's I may do it on the computer. And you just don't. It's just a different world on banking.
That's right. And it's just not that personal.
Yeah.
One-on-one like it used to be. And it just, the people take you in, and once you accept them, they accept you. We rounded out the year with interviews including Petersburg Assistant Police Chief Chad McClellan, who also moonlights at Pike Central High School teaching the next generation about criminal justice. Chaz Patrick shared with us what he does to honor those who serve, and we visited with Andy Anderson, who has spent a lifetime teaching, coaching, mostly in Pike County while serving in the military. You do a lot of role playing in that class, don't you?
We do. And that's part of the technical side of it. So we get up and do stuff so that we're not just sitting there taking tests or doing written homework all the time. But both in the training of law enforcement in general and school, they found that through that scenario-based training is more effective generally. So like instead of just a final test for this semester, for instance, we're about to do a mock trial. So they will get different roles. One will be a judge, they'll have a prosecutor, they'll have a defense attorney, and they will be presented with a case, and they'll hopefully develop that case and take it to trial. And then like Darren, our prosecutor, he loves to come in and help with the kids and, give his advice and how he would do things. We usually find a defense attorney to talk to the defense and give them their 2 cents on how they would work the case. Today on our e-learning, we watched a video of a mock trial to kind of get the idea of what we're looking to do. So that's just been introduced. So
your prosecutor was a police officer before he was a prosecutor.
He was briefly, yeah.
So it's interactive. And
yeah, we try to make it as much interactive as possible, and I try to bring as many of the guys from the department, and both departments really, in to interact with the kids because, that's part of it too. Even if a student comes in with very little interest in pursuing the field, at least they can leave with a knowledge of these guys as human beings, their perspective on different things.
And so are you actually placing Christmas wreaths at... Walk me through this, Chaz. I don't understand it.
Okay.
So are you placing wreaths at gravesites or?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the wreaths are actually they're donated. So when you sponsor a wreath, so let's say you were sponsoring for $17, you can do grave specific. So if there's somebody, I mean, you mentioned your father. I don't know if he's buried in that cemetery, but you could buy a wreath for him, and you could either go out and place it yourself, or you could have the volunteers, the people that are coming that day, which is open to the public. They'll take a wreath and they'll go to that grave, and they'll also cite their name.
What's your secret for the rest of us on having a great long life?
Eat well.
What do you eat?
Huh?
What do you eat?
Oh, almost anything I want. I just watch how much I eat. I weigh about what I did when I got out of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't go hungry, but I have at mealtime, I'm ready to eat.
Mm-hmm.
My granddads were the same way. I don't know, I guess it's just habit.
That's a great habit.
You just, well, I know them old timers, they said, we don't like to see you waste, but it's like leaving a little on your plate. Don't go get that second helping. You just eat a normal serving 3 times a day. Breakfast is the most important meal. Eat breakfast. That's what carries you in the evening. I taught my kids that. I told my parents that. I have meetings with my parents every year that I coach. I'd say, now these boys have got to eat 3 meals a day.
We hope that you have enjoyed this first season of WFPC podcasting and that you stick around for the next one. Continue to talk about it with your friends. You may find these full podcasts on our website, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your favorite media. Thanks again to our sponsors, specifically Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, Harris Real Estate, and Petersburg Car Wash. It's all local. Join us next year for another season of WFPC podcasting, exploring the people, information, and news right here in Pike County. See you next year.
Thanks for watching WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. From back roads to town centers, we bring you the voices, stories, and news that shape our community. Join us on this journey through the past, present, and future of Pike County, Indiana. Tune in next week for the next episode of WFPC Podcasting.